The story begins with amidst the opulent decor of a grand engagement announcement party, Prince Antonio stands with a manic, open-mouthed expression, his arm draped possessively around a woman named Marianne Montino, declaring the celebration has begun. Standing opposite this chaotic display is Tiziano Salvilio, who observes the spectacle with a stoic, almost bored demeanor, wearing a formal military-style dress uniform adorned with aiguillettes. The prince, reveling in his own drama, sneers that Tiziano must have thought she was summoned for a serious emergency, only to reveal his intention to replace her with the sweet and gentle Marianne, whom he deems far more suitable for the role of crown princess. He mocks Tiziano, claiming he had been mistaken for years to consider a sword-swinging guerrilla with zero femininity as his fiancée, asking if she lost her composure out of jealousy upon hearing of his time with Marianne. Tiziano, unfazed by the insults to her character, listens as Antonio accuses her of abusing her position to demand food and supplies while guarding the Montino territory. Her inner thoughts reveal a sharp disconnect. She realizes the prince evidently failed to read the official reports, as her family had provided soup kitchens to aid his tax-burdened citizens and agreed to exchange security services for logistical support, a narrative he has completely twisted. Antonio continues his tirade, calling the Salvilio family wild monkeys, despite their role as defenders of the kingdom, and disparages Tiziano's magical abilities, comparing her unfavorably to her famous mother, the war goddess, and demanding she command her subordinates properly. As the prince preens, Tiziano reflects on the past decade. 10 years ago, the royal family proposed this union, and even then, she harbored doubts about Antonio's fitness to rule. Despite her reservations, she had resolved to support him and make the kingdom of Elidenburg a nation to be proud of, striving to become a queen worthy of pride, even in a relationship void of love or romance. She acknowledges that the country would likely be better served by someone like Antonio's younger brother, who demonstrated intelligence and genuine care for the populace 5 years ago. Deciding to end the farce, Tiziano agrees that she is unfit to be his fiancée and immediately produces a prepared engagement cancellation document, asking him to sign it with a polite but firm smile. The prince, initially caught off guard by her readiness, signs the paper with a flourish, mocking her preparedness while Tiziano's attendant, Teddo, confirms the document is in order. With the ink barely dry, Tiziano beams brightly, declaring that she will now devote herself entirely to guarding the Salvilio territory. She casually mentions that her knights, currently stationed in Montino, will likely be thrilled to return to their own lands, effectively announcing a full military withdrawal. Tiziano turns on her heel and begins to walk away, bidding the prince a good day, but the gravity of her words finally strikes him. Panic replaces Antonio's arrogance as he realizes the implications. He screams that Montino is suffering from poor harvests and cannot spare men for border defense, ordering her to halt and continue her protection duties. He questions how she can ignore neighbors in need, but Tiziano stops and casts a terrifying, shadowy glare over her shoulder. She coldly retorts that if poor harvests were truly the only issue, she would help without hesitation, but she implies corruption and mismanagement are the real culprits. She suggests that since he has a new fiancée, he should use his own assets or the budget allocated to Marianne from the royal treasury to fund the defense, reminding him that her previous aid was a personal favor to her fiancé, not a royal command. Before departing, she advises him to act like the prince his people deserve, stating that only he can change himself. The noble crowd whispers as Tiziano exits, noting her sharp tongue and Antonio's foolishness in airing such grievances publicly, speculating that the story will spread like wildfire. Teddo urges Tiziano to leave, while Tiziano senses a gaze upon her back. From a balcony above, a silver-haired man with a scar over one eye watches her departure with a satisfied smile, murmuring that he didn't expect things to go so smoothly and that the day he comes to claim her might be sooner than anticipated. Tiziano shakes off the feeling, resolving to focus on what comes next. Upon returning to the Salvilio estate, Tiziano is greeted warmly by her father, who announces that her engagement has been decided. Tiziano, assuming he refers to the cancellation, tries to explain that she already broke it off, but her father clarifies that a new fiancé has already been chosen. He presents 2 letters, one from the royal family addressing the incident at the party, and another from her new suitor. Tiziano is baffled, noting that it has only been 3 days since the disastrous party and she expected a reprieve from proposals. Her father drops the heavy news that Sally, Tiziano's mother, has approved this new marriage. The mention of her mother freezes Tiziano. She knows that if her mother approves, the only permissible answer is yes. Resigned, she accepts the situation as a done deal. Her father pivots to business, noting that handling the Montino border was good experience, and assures her that he has already sent couriers to recall the troops, telling her to leave the rest to him and go read her letters. In her chambers, surrounded by her excited maids Teto and Rita, Tiziano stares at the letter addressed, "To my beloved Tiziano," but decides to open the royal family's missive first. The letter is a rambling apology from the king, dismissing the cancellation as a little surprise, and attempting to smooth over Antonio's behavior, though it oddly focuses on Tiziano's beautiful brown hair and wild sword swings. The king admits he scolded Antonio for taking the joke too far and suggests redoing the engagement procedures. Tiziano, furious at the audacity, draws a crude sketch of a monkey to represent the prince, questioning if she was expected to raise the ill-mannered royal herself. She vents that having such a fiancé is a public embarrassment and instructs Rita to send the monkey drawing back to Prince Antonio. With the royal nuisance addressed, her attention shifts to the second letter, which bears the undeniable wax seal of the Duke of Regulus, a crest featuring a sword and a lion. She realizes the proposal comes from the Ice Duke, Leon Regulus. The Duke's letter contrasts sharply with his cold reputation. It is a sincere and poetic confession, stating that the proposal is not political but born of a wish to entrust his future to her. He writes that he was captivated by the beauty of her swordplay when he saw her once before, describing how she lit up his closed-off world. Teto teases Tiziano, asking if the Duke is her first love, reminding her of a sun tassel she once made. Tiziano flusters, vehemently denying it and insisting she merely admires his swordsmanship as a fellow knight. A flashback reveals the truth of her admiration. 10 years ago, during her first visit to the palace to meet Prince Antonio, she walked past the knight's training grounds and was mesmerized by a young knight's fluid combat skills. Inspired, she worked hard to embroider the Regulus crest onto a tassel, a tradition among knights to show respect to those they admire. However, back in the present, she admits she was too embarrassed to ever give it to him or wear it openly, keeping it hidden in a burlap sack under her armor for years. She questions the authenticity of the romantic letter, noting that it feels completely out of character for the Ice Duke, who is rumored to be a cold, merciless warrior who rejects all women. Teto laughs, teasing that her mistress is a dreamy romantic who doesn't want a cold husband. Tiziano's contemplation is interrupted by the news that Lady Cayley has returned and wishes to see her. Tiziano stiffens, acknowledging that she cannot refuse her mother. As she walks through the halls, she reflects on her mother's legendary status. Cayley Salvilio, the captain of the First Order, a warrior who slew a rampaging giant serpent with one arm and brought down a black dragon alone, a feat usually requiring an entire brigade. The Duke of Regulus is also mentioned to be handling monsters on the southern coast and will arrive in 2 weeks. Entering her mother's presence, Tiziano stands respectfully before Cayley, who is seated and looking away. Tiziano confirms the engagement annulment with Prince Antonio is final. Cayley, without turning fully to face her daughter, simply asks, "Is that all?" and states she is leaving for training. As she stands to leave, Cayley drops a crushing remark, "I never expected anything from the beginning." Tiziano is left devastated, wondering what her last 10 years of effort were for if her mother held no expectations. Later, Teto tries to comfort Tiziano, insisting that Cayley didn't mean the comment in regard to Tiziano personally, but Tiziano is unconvinced and retires to bed early, emotionally exhausted. Lying in the dark, she painfully recalls that she has no memory of her mother ever smiling at her, hugging her, or showing affection. Despite her father's assurances that Cayley cares deeply, Tiziano feels only a cold distance. She wishes her mother would just criticize her openly rather than holding back, desperate to know what she can do to earn praise or a single smile. Staring at her sword and books, she laments that no matter how hard she trains or studies, the one thing she wants, to feel loved by her mother, remains impossibly out of reach. On a stone balcony overlooking the dense treeline, a figure watches a knight on patrol below. Tiziano Salvilio, sensing a gaze upon her from a considerable distance, sharply turns her head, locking onto the observer's location with unnatural precision. The watcher, a man with long light hair, smiles with satisfaction, noting that she noticed him even from such a range, confirming his belief that he truly needs Tiziano. Later, inside the Salvilio estate, Tiziano returns early from her patrol, troubled by reports of suspicious movements in the neighboring kingdom and the feeling of being watched. Her maid informs her that the timing is perfect because a guest has arrived. Entering the parlor, Tiziano is greeted by a bespectacled butler named Arend, who introduces himself as a servant of House Regulus. He presents her with a massive, sparkling bouquet of roses, claiming they were grown at the Regulus estate and hand-arranged by Lord Leon himself. Tiziano, flustered and blushing, accepts the flowers with a stammered thank you. Arend presses on with a special mission from his master, asking Tiziano to name her favorite flower. He adds a dramatic flair, claiming he cannot return home until he receives an answer. Tiziano admits she thinks all flowers are beautiful but confesses she is not fond of those with strong scents. Satisfied, Arend declares he can now return with pride, leaving Tiziano bewildered by his storm-like energy. In the days that follow, gifts begin to arrive at the Salvilio estate with overwhelming frequency. First, a delivery of unscented flowers, chosen specifically to match her preference, arrives with a note hoping they bring comfort to her as she protects the border from monsters. Tiziano reflects on how the Duke's thoughtful treatment contrasts with the rumors of his coldness, noting that having such a man by her side on the battlefield would be reassuring. The Duke's letter offers full support if she wishes to join the Regulus Knight Order after marriage, acknowledging that fighting is natural for a Salvilio. Tiziano finds herself moved by the warmth in his words but struggles with how to reply. She wonders if she should mention her usefulness as a knight or that she has observed his training. Her insecurity flares as she recalls Prince Antonio's insults, labeling her a wild monkey and a violent brute, with sunburnt skin and rough, calloused hands. She looks at her own hands, agreeing internally that she lacks feminine charm and that a truly attractive woman should have pale, translucent skin and soft red lips, like Lady Marianne. She questions if the Duke has truly seen her, deciding to keep her reply neutral to avoid disappointment. The gifts continue. A dress arrives, accompanied by a note comparing the calm beauty of the horizon to her. Then, magic stones from a sea dragon he defeated, sent because their glow reminded him of her. Finally, a bouquet of lilies of the valley, sent simply because they were in bloom and sweet, just like her. A letter explains that he hunted Kraken specifically to find a healing magic stone suitable for her, hoping she remembers him when she uses it on the battlefield. Tiziano flushes deeply, overwhelmed by the sincerity in every gift, though she humorously worries about him disrupting the monster ecosystem by overhunting Krakens. She contrasts this deluge of affection with Prince Antonio, who never sent a single letter, and begins to wonder if the poetic descriptions of gems and horizons truly refer to her. Moved by his persistence, Tiziano makes her decision. She accepts the proposal with gratitude, believing the Duke truly cares for her. However, she shocks her attendant by demanding the wedding take place in 1 week, coinciding with the Duke's scheduled arrival. She asserts that she has already discussed it with the Duke, and if she must marry, sooner is better. Tiziano informs her mother, Sally, of the sudden schedule. Sally, stoic as ever, asks if there is a problem, to which Tiziano quietly answers no. Privately, Tiziano wishes for more time to mentally prepare but acknowledges that noble marriages often occur without meetings. Her younger brother, Oscar, bursts in, expressing joy that crap, Prince Antonio is out of the picture and congratulating her on marrying the respectable commander of the Royal Knight Order. Oscar laments that Tiziano will be leaving, promising to work hard as the future captain of the Salvilio Knight Order to make her proud. Tiziano looks at him with affection, reflecting on the reality of their world where status is determined by magic ranks, gold, white, black, red, and blue. The Salvilio heirs typically possess gold magic, and Oscar was born with it, mastering body enhancement magic early under their mother's personal tutelage. Tiziano, despite being the daughter of the war goddess, was born with the low rank of red. She resigned herself to the fact that Oscar would become the noble commander she could not be. However, Oscar shatters her self-deprecation by declaring he wants to be like her, not their mother. He tells her she is the pride of the order and that he wants people to recognize him as Tiziano's little brother. He praises her leadership, noting the order has suffered no casualties since she took command. Tiziano tears up, realizing her efforts were not in vain and that she has become a sister Oscar can be proud of. She hugs him tightly, thanking him. 1 week later, the wedding day arrives with beautiful weather. Tiziano sits in her dressing room, adorned in the dress and holding the bouquet the Duke arranged, grateful he remembered her dislike of strong scents. Rita, her maid, expresses joy that she can continue to serve Tiziano even after the marriage. Tiziano realizes she left the black dragon sword, a gift from her mother, at the estate, deciding it is more fitting for Oscar to inherit it. While waiting, Tiziano's enhanced senses, sight that penetrates forests, a nose that detects faint scents, and ears that hear a handkerchief fall, pick up sounds from 2 rooms over. She recognizes the voices of the king and Prince Antonio alongside the duke. Using magic to focus, she eavesdrops on the conversation. A woman's voice, identified as Lilian Regulus, the duke's sister, speaks with irritation. A man, presumably the king, teases Leon, saying he always thought the duke was devoted to Sylvia. Leon remains silent, but the king continues, praising Sylvia's seductive body and queenly aura, claiming not even a king could take her from Leon. Prince Antonio chimes in, calling the relationship enviable and stating that no one could come between Leon and Sylvia. The conversation shifts to Tiziano. Prince Antonio smugly takes credit for the marriage, claiming his information on Tiziano's likes and hobbies helped Leon win her over. He frames the union as a stabilizing political move for the kingdom, securing the border with a marriage between a royal cousin and a borderland marquis. Leon simply agrees, confirming it will help secure the kingdom's future. Tiziano is devastated. She realizes the romantic proposal was a farce. The duke never saw value in her efforts or strength, but merely needed a political alliance. The poetic letters were likely written by someone else to smooth over the chaos of her broken engagement. She feels foolish for believing he loved her, realizing his heart belongs to Sylvia. She imagines a future where she is ignored by her husband while he is supported by Sylvia, reducing her existence to nothing but bearing children. Determined not to accept this fate, Tiziano confronts the duke's siblings, Lilian and Wolin, in the hallway. Lilian is hostile, asking what is wrong with telling the truth that her brother loves Sylvia most. Tiziano interprets this as confirmation. She apologizes for intruding and declares that Leon is far too good for her. She tells Wolin to give the duke a message. Please be happy with the one you truly love. With tears in her eyes, Tiziano takes Lilian's hand, thanking her for the brave advice. She then drops the bombshell. She will not be getting married. She turns to Rita and prepares to leave. As she walks away from the stunned siblings, she delivers a final message for the duke. Let's both be happy. Ignoring Wolin's frantic pleas to wait, Tiziano flees the venue. Rita and Tiziano escape on horseback into the woods. Tiziano explains her reasoning. The duke loves Sylvia, and she refuses to be a laughingstock in a political marriage orchestrated by the prince. She refuses to return to the Salvilio territory, knowing she would just be sent back once the duke returns. Instead, she hatches a plan to infiltrate the Regulus estate as a maid to see this Sylvia for herself and gather intel. Tiziano declares she will enter the battle to become more beautiful than Sylvia and make the men who mocked her, Prince Antonio and the duke, regret their actions. She mentions a rumor about a beauty salon in Regulus territory where one can become exactly the person they want to be, planning to go there after her reconnaissance. To secure her disguise, Tiziano decides she must change her appearance entirely so she won't be recognized by the butler she met only once. She grabs a knife from Rita. With a determined expression, she grabs her long hair, the symbol of her desire to look mature for her mother, and slices it off. She vows to change and make them all regret losing her. The pristine corridors of the Regulus estate, where Tiziano Salvilio scrutinizes her reflection, questioning her appearance in the unfamiliar garb of a servant. She has shed her commander's uniform for a maid's dress, adopting the alias, and to infiltrate the ducal house alongside her loyal maid Rita. Her mission is twofold: to exact revenge on those who mocked her and to investigate the mysterious Sylvia, the woman rumored to have charmed even the king and stolen the duke's heart. Driven by a desperate hope to find happiness with someone who could love her for who she is, Tiziano steels herself for the deception. However, her covert mission immediately hits a confusing snag as the Duke of Regulus himself, Leon, personally guides her through the estate's sprawling gardens. Tiziano struggles to understand why the head of the house is acting as a tour guide for a mere maid, feeling an odd pressure as if he is attempting to keep her there. She recalls that her assignment was supposed to end once the Duke returned from his week-long expedition to the south, yet here he stands, barely half a day later. Leon pauses amidst the greenery, asking, and if she thinks Lady Tiziano would appreciate this particular garden. Leon touches his chin thoughtfully, his expression softening as he explains his horticultural choices. He reveals that he heard Tiziano dislikes strong scents, a detail that catches the disguised Tiziano off guard. Consequently, he consulted with the gardener to import specific mild-scented varieties from abroad, curating the space entirely for her comfort. He smiles gently, expressing his hope that Lady Tiziano will be pleased with the result. Internally, Tiziano screams in confusion, unable to reconcile this thoughtful behavior with the rumors of the Ice Duke. She wonders if the elusive Sylvia knows about this gesture and questions what the Duke could possibly be thinking. Even if the marriage is for the good of the country, creating an entire garden for a political match while loving another woman seems incomprehensible to her. She concludes that Sylvia certainly cannot be happy about this arrangement. Suddenly, the tranquility is shattered as a young girl bursts into the scene, tears streaming down her face. It is Liliane, the Duke's younger sister, who wails an apology to her brother. Between sobs, she confesses that she lied to Tiziano. She admits that she didn't want her brother taken away by someone she didn't know, so she fabricated the story that Leon loved someone else to drive Tiziano away. Liliane cries out that she just wanted to say that Leon loves his family too, her deception born from a childish fear of abandonment. Leon stands frozen, processing the revelation that his sister is the source of the chaos. Before Leon can fully reprimand his sister, the vice commander of the Regulus Night Order, Sergio, rushes in with urgent news. He reports that Lady Tiziano has fled, leaving behind a message. "I'll find happiness with someone I love." The words strike Leon like a physical blow, his composure cracking as he repeats the phrase, questioning why she would say such a thing so suddenly. Sergio suggests that for a man who has never shown interest in women to suddenly announce a marriage without even a proper meeting, it is only natural for the bride to get nervous or misunderstand. Leon's mind races as he tries to decipher Tiziano's parting words. He wonders if she is still thinking about her ex-fiancé, the wild monkey, Prince Antonio, and orders Sergio to have the court physician examine the prince's head, a rude remark that earns a rebuke from his subordinate. Leon declares he will return to the estate later and orders an immediate search party to find Tiziano. As he processes the situation, Leon fixates on the phrase, "Let's both find happiness." He refuses to believe she still has feelings for this scumbag, Prince, but the phrasing plants a seed of doubt. Does she already have someone else? The thought terrifies him. He realizes that the message she left with Wolin implies she thinks he already has a partner, a misunderstanding he is confident he can clear up. But the idea that she might have set her heart on someone else gnaws at him. He envisions the type of person she would choose, someone graceful, refined, and beautiful, and realizes he has found his wild monkey. Leon's thoughts drift back 3 years into the past, searching for the origin of her feelings. He questions if she ever cared for him or if her acceptance of his proposal was purely a duty to her family. He wonders if she decided at the last minute to pursue true love, or if she loved someone else even before breaking off her engagement with the prince. Despite his resolve to respect her feelings if she truly loves another, he finds himself unable to let this chance slip away. He admits to himself that he has been longing for her since that day, 3 years ago. The narrative shifts to a flashback near the Salvilio territory border. A younger Leon stands in a military tent, preparing to sneak into the Salvilio ranks. He slides a ring of disguise onto his finger, explaining that it allows him to take on a form that leaves no impression on anyone. His goal is to see for himself whether the eldest daughter of the Salvilio family is fit to be entrusted with national defense. He recalls the rumors about her, uncharitable descriptions of a woman with no charm, a brute whose only merit is swinging a sword. He contrasts this with her mother, Sally Salvilio, who possessed both presence and strength, looking like the mightiest knight. Disguised as a nondescript soldier named Luxan, Leon joins the formation late, apologizing for getting lost. He watches as Tiziano steps forward to address the troops. She announces that their mission is monster subjugation near the village, not war, and sets strict rules. Follow orders, do not act alone, do not pursue glory recklessly, and retreat immediately if danger is sensed. The soldiers, particularly those transferred from Mont Eno, whisper dissent, mocking her for ordering a retreat before the battle has even begun. They view a knight who cannot fulfill their duty as a laughingstock and label the new commander a softy. Tiziano ignores the murmurs and continues, her voice firm. She demands that every single one of them promise to return alive. She declares that if anyone is to become a laughingstock, it will be her, the commander who ordered the retreat and misjudged the situation, rather than risking their lives. Leon, observing from the ranks, realizes that her strategy is far from weak. He notices that the soldiers have been stationed as if she already knew exactly where the monsters would appear, scouting a wide area in advance with impossible precision. He deduces that she placed inexperienced soldiers where weaker monsters roam, while veteran fighters coordinate against the strong ones. He recognizes that her speech about returning alive was not empty idealism but a calculated operational standard. A signal flare from headquarters lights up the sky, signaling the retreat order. Leon notes her timing is impeccable and admits his concerns about her capability were needless. However, a group of soldiers ignores the order, deciding to hunt more monsters for extra pay, noting that Salvilio pays better than Montino but they want the magic stones. They spot a baby Pegasus and decide to kill it for its stone, disregarding the retreat. Leon, sensing a dark presence, realizes these soldiers are walking into a trap. A massive basilisk emerges from the trees, freezing the greedy soldiers in terror. The beast glares, and Leon knows they are outmatched. Just as the monster prepares to strike, Tiziano intervenes, blocking the attack and admonishing the soldiers for violating regulations. She asks them what is more important, their lives or the magic stone. Tiziano realizes she cannot defeat the basilisk while protecting the 3 insubordinate soldiers. She orders one of them to run and get help from the main force while she distracts the beast. The soldiers, terrified of being punished for disobeying orders, hesitate, but eventually flee, leaving Tiziano alone. Leon remains behind, watching her. Tiziano, accepting she must fight alone, hurls a bottle of strong irritant paint at the basilisk, blinding it and confusing its sense of smell. She taunts the beast, luring it into a chase. She runs toward a dead end at a cliff edge, with Leon following close behind. He questions why she is cornering herself, but she yells for him to go this way. As the basilisk lunges, a massive wyvern swoops down from the cliff above, attacking the basilisk. Leon realizes the top of the cliff was a wyvern's nest. Tiziano had knowingly lured the basilisk into the wyvern's territory to force a turf war. He is astounded, noting that this spot isn't on any map and questioned how she could have known about the nest from her survey position. He confronts her, asking why she risked suicide to save only 3 disobedient men. Tiziano, breathing heavily, explains that if sacrificing herself means more of them survive, it is worth it because they are young and have a future. Leon argues that even with her help, victory was impossible, but she counters that sacrificing just herself is a better outcome. She states that dying while fighting for the nation or the people would leave her with no regrets, defining this as the true life of a knight. Leon, moved by her resolve but frustrated by her disregard for her own value, grabs her shoulders. He asks if she knows how many people would be devastated by her death, her family, her comrades, and even him. He orders her to never give up on living, framing it as a command despite their brief acquaintance. He confesses that if she died, it would break his heart. Leon reflects that for a commander, viewing life so lightly is dangerous, yet he sees that she stays close to others' hearts in a way he cannot. He admits his own arrogance in wanting to protect all lives, but recognizes that as a future queen, Tiziano's desire to protect everyone, even the foolish, makes her pure. He believes that in a noble society full of hidden agendas, she is completely out of place, yet the people would be blessed to have her. Kneeling before her, Leon makes a solemn vow. He asks if she would allow him to protect her pure heart, promising not to let anything corrupt it. He begs her to let him live for her sake. He tells her that until she finds a goal worth living for, he will keep her heart and loyalty safe with him. As he looks up at her, he realizes that for the first time in his life, he truly wanted someone. To him, she appeared as a goddess. He laments that she was the crown prince's fiancée at the time, but now, 3 years later, he knows he cannot let her go. The memory solidifies his resolve to find the wild monkey who stole his heart. Inside the Regulus estate, the disguise operation continues as Rita and Tiziano, currently masquerading as the maid Anno, stand before the butler, Arend. Arend presents a lavishly decorated bedroom, asking for their opinion on the quarters prepared for Lady Tiziano. Rita, internally sweating but maintaining her composure, confirms that the room's aesthetic perfectly matches her mistress's style. Suddenly, Duke Leon enters the room, catching the disguised pair off guard. He explains that this level of preparation is standard for the Regulus household and instructs the maids to utilize the room themselves to test its comfort for his future bride. Tiziano, who had planned to leave immediately after gathering intelligence, panics internally as her exit strategy crumbles. Leon reasons that Anno, having a similar build to Tiziano, is the most suitable candidate to assess the room. Before Tiziano can protest, the decision is made, and Arend escorts Rita to the maid's quarters, leaving Tiziano trapped in the role. Leon directs Anno's attention to a vase of flowers on the table, identifying them as sweet lilies. He notes that these flowers bloom only in a specific part of the Salvilio domain. Recalling a visit to Salvilio where he saw a field of them, he explains that he had them imported because he thought flowers from her homeland would comfort Tiziano, who must be sad to leave her home. He adds that he specifically chose a mild-scented variety because he heard she dislikes strong scents. Tiziano, overwhelmed by this display of thoughtfulness, struggles to reconcile this kind man with the rumors of the Ice Duke and the alleged lover, Sylvia. As Leon prepares to leave, he casually mentions a door in the room. Tiziano assumes it leads to a back room, but Leon clarifies that it connects directly to his own bedroom. He assures a horrified Tiziano that there is a lock from the inside, so she need not worry, but the implication of sleeping one door away from the Duke sends her into a mental tailspin. Later that night, Tiziano sits on the bed, paralyzed by the sounds of the Duke moving, writing, and drinking just through the wall. Unable to relax, she paces the room, her heart racing. Seeking air, Tiziano steps out onto the balcony and observes the garden below. She spots Leon walking outside, seemingly still searching for his runaway bride. Seeing him reaffirms her confusion. Despite the rumors and his own admission about Sylvia, his actions suggest he genuinely cares for Tiziano. Her mind drifts back to a memory from 3 years ago at the royal castle. Tiziano had gone to report her appointment as captain of the knights. She overheard Prince Antonio mocking her to Duke Regulus, calling her unfeminine and claiming she only got the position through nepotism. However, Leon defended her. He stated that the proud Sally Salvilio would never cut corners for her own child and that if Tiziano had no magic, it meant she must have worked incredibly hard to qualify. He declared it unthinkable to speak ill of her, expressing nothing but respect. This memory of him recognizing her effort when even her mother remained silent is the root of Tiziano's admiration for him. Snapped back to the present, Tiziano's enhanced senses pick up movement in the garden. She sees Lillian and Wolin sneaking out late at night without a guard. Sensing danger, Tiziano abandons stealth and vaults over the balcony railing. Down in the garden, Lillian and Wolin are searching for a hair ornament Lillian lost, a birthday gift from her brother. Suddenly, a maid emerges from the shadows, brandishing a dagger. Tiziano lands just as the assassin strikes, but she is too late to fully stop the attack. Wolin is slashed across the chest protecting his sister. The assassin, revealed to be a maid using a dagger coated in poison, mocks Tiziano's lack of a weapon. Tiziano identifies the scent immediately as Heiko poison. She orders Rita, who has just arrived, to focus on stopping the bleeding rather than healing magic, which cannot neutralize the toxin. The assassin lunges, but Tiziano, wielding a simple cleaning mood, fights back with overwhelming skill. She effortlessly overpowers the attacker, slamming her into the ground just as Leon and his knights arrive. Leon orders his vice commander, Sergio, to restrain the assassin. Tiziano urgently reports that Wolin was stabbed with a poison dagger and requires immediate treatment for Heiko poison. The knights are skeptical that a maid would know the poison type, accusing her of being the perpetrator. However, Leon looks into Anno's eyes and chooses to trust her completely, ordering the treatment she specified. With the immediate danger past, Tiziano comforts a weeping Lillian. She assures the girl that Heiko poison heals quickly if treated properly and encourages her to smile for Wolin's sake. Lillian apologizes, explaining she was selfish to drag Wolin out to find the ornament, but Tiziano gently tells her that Wolin protected her because he loves her. Later, inside the estate, Leon approaches Anno and Rita. He thanks them for protecting his sister. He admits he has been worried about Lillian's safety but knows she dislikes rough male guards. Having witnessed their capabilities, he asks them to serve as Lillian's personal guards and maids until Lady Tiziano is found. Tiziano accepts the mission. Leon steps dangerously close to Tiziano, invading her personal space to express his gratitude again, his face inches from hers. Tiziano flushes bright red, panicked by the proximity. As he pulls away with a knowing smile, Rita observes that the Duke has almost certainly realized that Anno is actually Tiziano. Bonus chapter, Teddo Quattro, Tiziano's aide, is hiding in a restaurant, eavesdropping on a conversation involving Jean, the poster girl of the White Lily Inn. Teddo has a crush on Jean and listens intently as she talks about someone she is curious about. Jean describes her crush, a member of the Salvilio order who ties their hair in a ponytail and is about her age. Teddo excitedly thinks she means him, as he fits the description. However, Jean reveals her crush is actually Lady Tiziano, whom she views as a prince after Tiziano caught her when she tripped. Teto is left devastated, realizing his rival in love is his own boss. A few days after the assassination incident, Tiziano Salvilio, still disguised as the maid Anno, ventures into the bustling town within the Regulus territory. She observes that the atmosphere is distinctly different from her home in Salvilio, noting the booming trade and abundance of foreign goods. Although Wolin was assigned as her escort for the day, Tiziano politely refused his protection for this private outing, intending to visit a specific shop to achieve her goal. Accompanied by Rita, she walks through the streets, unaware that a group including Duke Leon and Vice Captain Sergio is watching her from the shadows. Tiziano spots a cute dress in a shop window but hesitates, knowing that sneaking out without the proper clearance wristband usually makes leaving the barrier difficult. However, she acknowledges the impressiveness of the Regulus barrier system. As she and Rita discuss getting a reservation at the shop, realizer, Tiziano's sharpened senses alert her to a presence behind them. She whispers to Rita that they are being tailed, suspecting it might be an accomplice of the assassin maid from before. Deciding to confront the stalker, Tiziano lures the pursuer into an alleyway. The figure attempts to vanish using speed, but Tiziano intercepts him, pinning him against the wall. She demands to know what he needs, only to realize the hooded figure is none other than Duke Leon himself. At that moment, Lillian and Wolin arrive on the scene, with Lillian loudly declaring her brother to be the worst for his behavior. Leon awkwardly explains that he was merely accompanying them because he didn't feel safe letting Lillian and Wolin go out alone, even with escorts. Sergio also reveals himself, apologizing for the deception. Lillian admits she lied about not needing an escort because she wanted to go out with Big Sis, Tiziano, causing Tiziano to realize the entire outing was orchestrated for her benefit. When Tiziano mentions they were heading to Realizer, but lacked an appointment, Lillian reveals that she is actually the owner of the boutique. The group arrives at Realizer, where Lillian is welcomed as the boss. It is revealed that the shop began from Lillian giving fashion advice to noble ladies, eventually growing into a full business. Leon, exerting an intimidating amount of pressure, tells Anno and Rita to take anything they want as thanks for protecting Lillian previously, covering all costs himself. He then asks Anno to select several dresses that Lady Tiziano might like, framing it as a request for help. Tiziano, unable to refuse the request, agrees to try on outfits. While Tiziano is occupied, Leon and Sergio retreat behind a soundproof barrier to converse privately. Ideally, Leon reveals that he knew Anno was Tiziano the moment he saw her, praising her impressive detection skills in spotting his tail. He explains that he told Lillian and Wolin the truth about Tiziano's identity so they wouldn't be heartbroken later if she disappeared again. Sergio reports on the interrogation of the assassin maid, confirming she was a spy from the neighboring nation of Litria who snuck in among the new servants. The conversation shifts to the chaos in the capital. Sergio notes that House Salvilio is working hard to control the situation, but rumors are spreading that the Duke loves someone else, leading to complaints from the local populace who adore Tiziano. Sergio praises Tiziano's ability to touch the hearts of her soldiers, noting that her willingness to risk her life for the people sets her apart from arrogant nobles. Leon's mind drifts to a memory from 3 years ago involving Prince Antonio and the king. In the flashback, Antonio is seen begging his father not to strip him of his succession rights, claiming he needs to reconcile with Tiziano despite finding true love with Marianne. The king is furious at Antonio for disregarding the vital stability the Salvilio connection provides the nation. Leon interrupts the meeting with a report on sea monsters and coolly asks if the engagement is truly cancelled. Seizing the opportunity, Leon proposes that he engage Tiziano instead, arguing that his connection as the king's nephew would ensure the same national stability. The king agrees to the brilliant idea. Antonio, desperate to save his own skin, hands Leon a dossier he compiled on Tiziano over 10 years. Leon reads the single sheet of basic public info and is disgusted that Antonio knows nothing about her after a decade, internally calling him worthless trash, before slashing the paper in half. He declares to the king that he will not let this be a fleeting dream, having yearned for Tiziano since he first saw her. Back in the present, Sergio warns Leon that his behavior toward Anno is too obvious and that Rita likely knows the truth. Leon admits he is restraining himself, as he desperately wants to hold her and keep her in his arms forever, but feels he lacks the right because of the man she loves, she mentioned. As the soundproof barrier drops, Lillian catches Leon staring intensely at Tiziano in a white dress, once again calling him the worst for his creepy behavior. Leon, overwhelmed by his feelings, orders the white dress Tiziano tried on. He confesses to himself that he wants to tell her he loves her right now, but knows she would run away if he did. His thoughts take a dark turn as he contemplates simply locking her up deep in the mansion to keep her, terrifying Sergio with his intense, possessive expression. Inside the boutique Realiza, Tiziano Salvilio, still disguised as Anno, stares at her reflection in the mirror, wearing a white dress selected by Lillian. She feels ashamed for imagining her wedding, which never happened, and thinks she looks the worst in such feminine attire. However, she secretly admits that the dress suits her more than she expected. Lillian, sensing Tiziano's discomfort, praises her appearance, while Tiziano stammers that she is just nervous because she isn't used to wearing makeup. Lillian dismisses her brother's clueless comments about women, assuring Tiziano not to mind them. Lillian excitedly announces that a new shipment of dresses has arrived and runs off to fetch them, leaving Tiziano and Rita alone. Rita teases Tiziano, suggesting she try on more dresses since the Duke offered to pay for everything. Tiziano hesitates, reminding Rita that she plans to leave soon and won't have opportunities to wear such clothes. She sadly compares herself to the unworn dresses, feeling they will both go to waste. Rita, however, fires back, asking where Tiziano's fighting spirit has gone. She reminds her mistress that their goal is to become beautiful and make the men who mistreated her, like the prince and the duke, regret their actions. Rita frames the shopping spree as fair payment for their work in catching the assassin and helping Lillian. She also points out that Tiziano, who usually only wears a uniform, needs to learn about fashion and cosmetics to achieve her revenge. Persuaded, Tiziano asks Rita to help her pick a dress, admitting she doesn't know how to choose or apply makeup herself. Rita happily agrees, declaring she is preparing for battle. Tiziano describes the kind of woman she wants to become, someone with breathtaking allure, queenly dignity, and a commanding presence. Rita points out that Tiziano already embodies those qualities through her strength and leadership as a knight commander, describing how she inspires others to serve her. Suddenly, screams erupt from outside. People are fleeing in panic, shouting that a monster is in the middle of town. Tiziano is confused, knowing that monsters appearing in town is unheard of due to the barriers maintained by the Regulus, Salvilio, and Montino territories. Tiziano and Rita rush to the window and see a massive black beast, a saber-toothed tiger. Tiziano notes that even for a seasoned knight, facing such a high-ranking monster alone is dangerous. Despite the danger, Tiziano prepares to intervene. She orders Rita to stay back and protect Lillian, planning to blind the monster to create an opening. She wonders why a high-ranking monster would leave its territory to attack a town. Just as she prepares to jump out, the air around the monster freezes with a cracking sound. Duke Leon appears, effortlessly freezing and defeating the beast with his ice magic. Tiziano watches in awe, acknowledging his incredible power as the Regulus Knight Commander. However, Tiziano senses something is wrong. She notices a familiar presence and realizes that the monster was likely lured or released intentionally by someone. She detects a scent on a suspicious man in the crowd, the same scent as the saber-toothed tiger. Determining that the man is a tamer who let the monster loose for a reason, she decides to pursue him. She tells Rita to return to Lillian while she follows the trail. As Tiziano chases the suspect into an alley, she is intercepted by Teddo Quattro, her aide from the Salvilio Knights. Teddo explains he came to the Regulus territory to find her after she vanished from her wedding. He admits he saw her coming out of the shop and chased after her. Teddo also informs her that her father and brother are working hard to control the rumors back home, including one that the Duke loves someone else. Tiziano confirms the rumor is true. Teddo insists on joining her, warning that a Fenrir, a high-ranking wolf monster, might be ahead and that she can't handle it alone. Tiziano tries to send him back to Rita, but he refuses, citing the danger. They proceed together, with Tiziano tracking the man's scent. Tiziano spots the suspect ahead but is suddenly startled when a man appears directly in front of her without her sensing his presence. The man, dressed in a vest and tie, apologizes for startling her and calls her Lady Anno. Tiziano instinctively draws a knife, wondering if he is the one who released the monster, though his appearance gives no clues. The man calmly states, "I'm not your enemy." Anno stands frozen as the man identifies himself as an intelligence agent for the Regulus Knights, sent by the Duke to monitor her movements. She searches her memory, struck by a haunting sense of familiarity in his gaze, while he watches her with an intensity that makes her skin prickle. He pierces her with a question about the man she was seen with earlier, causing her to panic internally as she realizes how suspicious her disappearance with an outsider must appear. She quickly explains that the individual was a former subordinate of Lady Tiziano who had come to the territory seeking her, and that he has already departed to report a suspicious sighting to Rita and Lady Lillian. The agent lingers on her words with a skeptical air, his eyes never leaving her face as he considers if she is planning to flee. He eventually accepts her explanation and offers to accompany her, though Anno remains wary, wondering if his compliance is merely because he knows he can subdue her at any moment. Their conversation is cut short as the sound of approaching footsteps echoes through the alleyway. Reacting instantly, the agent pulls Anno into a tight embrace and activates an advanced concealment spell, manifesting a shimmering barrier that masks their presence from the world. Anno marvels at the delicate precision of his magic, recognizing that he possesses gold-class mana to maintain such a thin, undetectable barrier. While they hide, two conspirators pass by, discussing their plot to frame the Salvilio family by using specialized monster hunting ropes to leave incriminating evidence behind after a saber-tooth attack. They mention their ultimate goal of bringing down the country by sowing distrust between Regulus and Salvilio, noting that they have even placed a mole within the Duke's estate. Anno recoils at the cruelty of their plan, especially since they were willing to target a small child for such a selfish cause. Once the danger passes, the agent deactivates the spell, and a flustered Anno praises his flawless technique. He slips and admits that her praise makes his practice worth it, but quickly tries to correct himself by claiming it is an honor to be recognized by Lady Lillian's guardian. Anno realizes that he has known her true identity as Tiziano all along. He vows to keep her secret and reveals that he has lived for her since the day he swore his loyalty during his first battle. Anno feels a wave of guilt as she struggles to recall his face, eventually blaming her memory loss on the effects of her disguise ring. The agent assures her that she has been the driving force behind his growth, and Anno softens, admitting she understands that kind of motivation because she has someone she cherishes as well. She reaches for a small pouch containing a tassel she embroidered as a child, intending to show it to him, but she suddenly stops and hides it, embarrassed by her poor craftsmanship and the fact that it bears the Duke's crest. He persists in wanting to see it, creating a light-hearted tension between them until Lady Lillian and Rita burst onto the scene, frantic with worry over Anno's reckless pursuit of a suspect. In the commotion of their arrival, the agent vanishes without a trace. Rita scolds Anno for her dangerous behavior, while Anno attempts to explain she was with a Regulus intelligence officer. Rita looks confused and asks who she was talking to, as she saw no one else when they arrived. As they begin their journey back to the Duke's estate, Anno realizes she never even learned the man's name, though she remains certain of his incredible skill and the lingering hope that they might meet again. Alone in his chambers, the Duke stands before a mirror and removes his disguise ring, shedding the identity of Ray, to reveal his true face. He reflects on Anno's admission of love for another, connecting her sun tassel to a knight from the Salvilio family. He questions why she continues to hide her identity from the Regulus family if her heart belongs elsewhere. A knock at the door interrupts his thoughts, and he grants entry to Anno and her companions. The Duke details the recent monster incident, explaining that a culprit is framing the Salvilio knights to drive a wedge between the domain's ruling families. He tasks Anno with investigating the matter alongside the agent she met earlier. Anno, eager to clear her former home's name, accepts the mission and asks the Duke for the agent's name. The Duke hesitates before revealing the name, Ray. Anno smiles privately, grateful to finally have a name for her mysterious ally. Teddo Quattro, an assistant to Commander Tiziano, requests to join the investigation as a liaison for the Salvilio family. The Duke grants his request but warns him to deliver their current intelligence quickly. Once the Duke is alone with his staff, he collapses in a fit of jealousy. He mutters about Anno's mysterious, makeup-free beauty and his desire to be the only one who truly knows her. His assistants dismiss his dramatic display, urging him to focus on his mounting workload. The following evening, the Duke resumes his disguise as Ray and meets Anno. Anno waves cheerfully, asking him to drop the formal speech and simply call her Tizi. The informal name sends his heart racing as they proceed to the tavern Kadroti. They take a table in the back to observe suspected conspirators. Ray attempts to use body enhancement magic to listen in, but the tavern's noise is overwhelming. He watches in awe as Tizi effortlessly uses her own magic to pinpoint the target's conversation. He recalls her uncanny abilities from previous missions, such as identifying Hyco poison by scent and spotting assassins in total darkness. After taking note of the tavern's layout, Ray leads Tizi to a balcony overlooking the town. Tizi's mood shifts as she mentions that her mother, Lady Saley, is arriving tomorrow to discuss the recent unrest. She trembles, confessing her terror of facing the mother she feels she has constantly disappointed. She reveals that her former fiancé, Prince Antonio, mocked her as a wild monkey with no charm, and her mother seemingly confirmed this by claiming she never had expectations for her to begin with. Ray challenges her perspective, insisting she does not have to live bound to her mother's judgment. He tells her that her efforts deserve respect and that he, for one, truly respects her. He bluntly tells her she is beautiful, a compliment that shocks her into silence. Tizi looks at him with newfound resolve, realizing he sounds exactly like the man she loved. She asks Ray to promise that if she crashes, while facing her mother, he will be there to pick her back up. Ray watches her under the moonlight, privately vowing that if she were his, he would never let her wear such a pained expression again. Rita finishes applying a natural makeup look to the protagonist, declaring her fully armed for the coming confrontation while the young woman marvels at the lack of hives as a sign of her readiness. Standing before the soundproofed barrier of the office, she resolves to face the situation alone, knowing the king and House Salvilio are gathered inside. She observes the Duke and Sergio departing, leaving the guests behind, and realizes this moment offers her only chance to speak with her mother privately. Trembling with fear but bolstered by Ray's encouragement, she vows to stop running and change herself as she waits in the garden corridor for her mother to exit. Prince Antonio Elidenberg suddenly interjects, barking orders and insulting the protagonist for her perceived stupidity in not immediately bowing to the heir to the throne. She offers a deep apology, hiding her shock at his uninvited presence while he rants about the uselessness of the stewards and his own impatience. Antonio demands to be taken to the Duke's office to demand his right to the throne, but she calmly informs him that a meeting regarding national defense is underway and he must wait. Infuriated by a mere maid talking back, Antonio prepares to throw a tantrum, prompting the protagonist to realize he has never learned to control his gold-type magic. The prince's expression shifts to a predatory grin as he recognizes her through the makeup, realizing she is Tiziano. He mocks her for dolling herself up and cruelly offers to grace her with their engagement again, claiming his mistress Marianne would be fine as a second wife. He laughs at the rumor of her running off to another man and demands she come crawling back to him. His verbal assault is violently cut short as a massive force smashes him into a stone wall. Lady Saley stands revealed in a state of absolute fury, her eyes glowing behind a dark mask of rage as she brands Antonio a scumbag for what he has done to her daughter. She recounts his non-stop mockery and his public ego stroke of breaking their engagement, her magic crackling around her hand. While the protagonist stands frozen in shock, Saley vows to personally dispose of the prince's useless head for his stupidity toward her precious, adorable Tiziano. The king arrives to investigate the ruckus, finding his son embedded in the wall and Saley ready for execution. Antonio pathetically screams for her punishment, but the king dismisses him as an impostor, noting the real prince was ordered to investigate monsters far away and should not be here. The king orders the impostor escorted to the castle for a long talk about his actions, expressing his sympathies to the Duke as the prince is dragged away. In the aftermath, Tornia urges Saley to finally discuss matters properly with her daughter. Saley confesses she only encouraged the match with Duke Regulus because she believed it would make Tiziano happy, unaware that Tiziano felt hated. Tiziano finally breaks her silence, weeping as she admits she always tried to be strong because she feared being a disappointment. Saley pulls her daughter into a desperate embrace, confessing she has always been her pride and her precious daughter. As they both cry, Tornia watches with a smile, noting how they have consistently missed each other's feelings for years. Finally, Saley prepares to tell Tiziano everything about the day she was born. In a separate memory of training, Vice Commander Sergio sparred with the protagonist, finding himself impressed by her unpredictable attacks and shallow breathing from the intensity. He noted her magic control more than made up for her red class rank and admitted he could trust her on any battlefield. While she collapsed from exhaustion, Sergio's fellow knights clamored to see his own legendary swordplay.